Well, everybody knows I need more projects around here like a hole in the head. So I bought another project. Spent the day down in Mishawaka, Indiana at the Myers Implement going out of business sale. And day two, Myers Implement, they were a woods dealer. They sold house implements like compact utility tractor implements, rims. They had a new like parts for like N series Fords, the Workmaster Fords. They were big into the Ford stuff, big into the Alice stuff. And then they had a small salvage yard, and they sold used implements, and they sold tractors, like older tractors. Basically kind of a one-stop shop type of deal. Nothing like, you wouldn't see any big farmers shopping there, but like it was just a little mom and pop like implement dealer type deal with a little salvage yard tacked onto it. And I guess the old man started it. I think it was, now they were explaining it was 50 something odd years ago, and I think he passed away and the son took it over and couldn't make a go of it, so they decided to close up shop. But yesterday they sold like pallets of small shit, and today was the day they sold all the salvage tractors and the used implements. And when I initially went down there, well, I went down there Monday to look around to see what all was worth going down there for, and they had a 4240 3-bottom Oliver plow that I wanted. They had a 4-section John Deere spring tooth harrow that my buddy's girlfriend wanted to pull behind her 820. And there was a little 4-cylinder Waukesha diesel sitting in what was left of a Super 55 frame tub and axle, front axle. And those were the 3 things that I wanted to go down there for. So, got down there this morning, get my number, they start the auction. I couldn't believe the money that dumb shit was bringing. Hey Teeter, what you doing? They started off on some junk tractors, and they were bringing what I would consider, I mean, if they were buying them for scrap, they weren't going to make a whole lot of money on them. They were like, what in my mind would be like right at scrap price for them. Then they started working, see, they did the tractors, they did some random, they had a row of like disc harrows and grater blades and shit. They sold that, and the disc harrows were bringing stupid money, and none of them were like, I don't think there was a single disc there that you could have hooked on and took to the field. They were all rough in one way, shape, or form or the other, and they're the same discs that I remember there when Dad and I used to go there when I was a little kid. And they didn't move a whole lot. Basically because what I heard about it was the old man was like the nicest guy you ever met, super easy to deal with, super easy to dicker with, like a great guy, just wanted to help people. And then, take this with a grain of salt, this is just what I heard. I guess the son was like the complete opposite, never wanted to sell anything, pain in the ass to work with. Like if you walked onto the yard, it was like you were an inconvenience just to be there. One of them type of deals, from what I heard. And I have a few friends that had experiences down there that were similar. I don't know. Not a way to run a business, obviously. That's why they went on a business. But anyway, back to the auction. They got done with that row of disc harrows, turned around and started working on the plows. And I mean, these plows were bringing stupid money. There was a, well, the 2 that I would have been somewhat interested in, there was a 55-45 bottom pipe plow that was rough. I mean, it had poly moldboards on it that were all sun-baked and broke. So basically, you might as well figure on rebuilding everything on the Frog. It needed points, shins, moldboards, whole 9 yards. So basically we're buying a plow frame. The 3-point tree had been all busted up and welded up at some point, and it was a rough plow, and I think that plow brought like 600 bucks, which was way more than what it was worth, and probably more than it would scrap for, because like those plows probably don't weigh much more than about a ton. So I think it would scrap for like 200 bucks at the most, maybe. Went a little further down the line, they had a 575 hydraulic reset 6-bottom, like the one that I just rebuilt, basically a twin to it before I knocked the back bottom off. It was a 5+1, just like the one I had, or have. That one went for $650, and it was in rougher shape. Well, it was about in the condition that mine was in when I started rebuilding it. Probably a little rougher, because mine at least had decent wear parts on it. This one, again, had poly moldboards on it, which apparently was a thing down there, that were all dry, or that were all sun baked and busted off and shit, and it was rough. And that one, it did have Oliver coulters on it, so there was that. And then right next to that thing, they had that 3-bottom 4340, which the frame on it was straight, but it had 3 junk tires. The lift rigging on it had been all busted up, welded up, had some parts on it that were homemade. The hitch had been broken, welded at some point. Had 3 John Deere coulters on it, so I mean, it was not nothing you could write home about. And it was not something you could just hook on and start plowing with. That thing went for $450, which normally on them trailer plows you figure $100 a bottom, so it was way freaking high. And I know that thing wasn't going to scrap for that kind of money, because if that plow weighed 1,000 pounds, I'd be impressed. So didn't get the plow. Then they go around and they start on the row of drags, which is right next to the plow, and they had like 25 drags there of different sizes and flavors. And I figured, okay, I'm gonna end up with this drag, because they started off, they were selling for between like 30 and 60 bucks a piece. Well, then they get to about the middle, and they must have got tired of selling individual lots, even though they were tagged individually. So they started grouping shit together. Well, this John Deere drag ended up grouped in with a spanner bar and another drag and some little pile of scrap iron. So that all ended up going for $300, which I probably should have bought it anyhow, because I told her that drag was probably worth about $200. I told her I wouldn't give more than $200 for the drag, and she said she'd go up to $200. So I could have got the $200 from her from the drag, scrapped the other drag in the pile, and probably made my $100 back. But it's like, it's not worth the damn hassle. It's like, it was all tagged individually, sell it individually. So I didn't end up with the drag. And then they started on the salvage tractors, because today they were selling, I can't remember if I told you this, today they were selling the salvage tractors and the used implements. And yeah, salvage tractors and used implements was today, and tomorrow is going to be the complete tractors and like the new wood stuff, and then Saturday is toys and memorabilia. But so they started on the salvage equipment, which there was 4 rows of salvage that were probably 150, 200 yards long. And basically what they did, I mean, for the most part, they had it grouped into, okay, this section was Alice Chalmers, and this was from when it was a salvage yard. They basically, if this section ended up Alice Chalmers, all the cases were here, all the Deeres were here, all the Olivers were here, yada, yada, yada. Well, over time, they started running out of room in the section, so they just started chucking tractors and shit wherever there was, so there was like different colors mixed in. And basically what they did was, they went on the ground, and anywhere you could walk a path in between all the shit, they drew a square around this section of shit, and you had to buy this whole section. So there was this, like, you would have to buy like between 10 and 30 tractors if you wanted something individual. Well, there was this one guy down there that is apparently a big time scrapper. I guess he's got contracts with like multiple steel companies and shit. He was going in and he was buying sections for anywhere between $8,000 and $25,000 a section. And I bet he bought 90% of the salvage equipment there, and I bet he spent somewhere between $400,000 and $500,000. Which, okay, that's fine. And there were several guys there that were interested in certain individual pieces. Well, he bought the section that my little Waukesha diesel was in that I wanted. Well, I figured out my buddy helped me figure out who it was that was buying all the stuff. We followed him around for a while and finally got caught up with him, and just as I was about to go up to him and ask him if he would sell me that motor out of that section, another guy beat me to him, and he was asking about a sickle bar mower, and he says, well, I want that sickle bar mower over there. Would you be interested in selling it? And without missing a beat, without even thinking about it, not even looking at the guy, he was like looking at his bidder number, writing shit down. He's like, no, I'm not selling anything. It's like, you son of a bitch. There is good stuff in there yet. But basically the way it sounds is it sounds like he's already got everything set up. That he's bringing in a crusher and a excavator with a shear, and everything's getting sheared up and hauled off to scrap. And there's still a bunch of good parts in there. I mean, a bunch of good parts in there. And there's some cool shit in there too. There was a V6 Detroit sitting in there. There was a John Deere 730 diesel with a tandem hitch set up on it. It was the back half of the tandem, so the front end or the pedestal's gone. And hang on a second. Okay, where was I? Oh yeah, that 730 diesel was freaking cool. Because it was, like I say, it was the back half of the tandem. It had all the levers up by the grill running back to run the throttle and the clutch and everything. It had the subframe underneath it. And it was a pretty complete 730, in all honesty. If you had a decent donor tractor, it would have been fairly easy to put that thing back together as long as the motor was in halfway salvageable shape. But there was just a bunch of cool shit in there that could have been saved, and it's all going to China now because, you know, we need to send China more of our shit. We're already sending them enough of our money and our politicians. But anyway, so I struck out on all three things down there that I actually went down there for. I missed the plow, missed the drag, missed the engine. So they got done selling the salvage, and they got into another row of implements, and it was like they had a bunch of hay equipment, some sickle bar mowers, some brush hogs, a couple round balers, a bunch of hay rakes, random shit like that. And they had this little line of manure spreaders, most of which were new idea. There was an International and maybe a Deere, but I think for the most part they were all little new idea spreaders. And we walked past them like 4 or 5 times because while we were waiting for them to get through the shit that we didn't want to get to the stuff we wanted, we walked that whole yard probably 3 or 4 times. And every time I walked by this thing, I stopped to look at it. And it's like, for a manure spreader, granted the wood in it's rotten, which for a spreader of this age, if it had been sitting outside, you just expect it. But if you look past the wood, for a manure spreader, this thing is straight as fuck. And the first thing that I noticed about it is New Idea use these heavy formed angles for their top rim. There's not a dent in them. Like normally, if they're loading these things with a loader, or even if they were hand loading them over time, these things got all dinged up and bent up and smashed up, and these are straight as an arrow. The only thing in them is when we loaded it, they just brought a wheel loader over and picked it up and carried it to the trailer, and they put this little dink in it right here, which you can't really notice unless you're looking for it. But like the rails and everything and the front plate are straight as an arrow, and all the shields are there, the jack is there, and the jack works. The lever's there, the lever hasn't been screwed up, and you can still read New Idea. Or no, it doesn't say. It says number 19, and I thought I saw New Idea, but it just says number 19 there, and it still got their guaranteed sticker there. Like, I think this was a fairly nice spreader before it ended up there and sat for years. Still got the tag on it, but the frame is in good shape. The web chain is in decent shape. I might replace the bolts and the crossbars because, you know, those are a little rough, but the bars are straight. Normally you see a spreader like this, they're all bowed in. That one's slightly bowed, but like normally they get a big old honking bow in them. All 3 beaters are in it. All 3 beater shafts are tight. The paddles are all there. A couple of them are dinged up, but I don't think that actually happened in use. I think that happened when they were jostling equipment around for the sale, to be honest, because it's not something that would bend. It's the way they're bent isn't like something that I would think you would bend in use. But the gearbox has never been broke, so apparently it's never had water in it, because normally if these things sit outside and they get water in them, the gearboxes blow out here or here. that it still shifts. Like, I honestly don't think this spreader has had a whole lot of use, to be honest. The wheel bearings are still, or the, I don't know if you call them wheel bearings, I'm pretty sure they're chilled hubs, but the wheels are still tight. Like, yeah, the wood's shit, but as far as the mechanical parts of the spreader itself, it's actually in really freaking good shape. The only tin that's screwed up is these little shields back here, which would actually, I mean, there's enough left of this one that a decent sheet metal shop, because all are going to be is mirror images of each other. That one's just going to be bent opposite of this one. A decent sheet metal shop should be able to replicate them real quick. And then this chain guard needs a little bit of help, but I mean, the teeth and the gears are all still square. I mean, it's like, the more I walked past it, the more I looked at it, it's like, son of a Buick, that's not really, other than the wood being shit, which is easy enough to replace, it ain't a bad little spreader. And I've kind of halfway been looking for one. Obviously, I've been looking for an Oliver, but the ones that you find are either in this condition, and people still want stupid money for them, because manure spreaders, because we got all the horse people around here and small-time cattle people, manure spreaders around here bring stupid money. You're talking, I'm pretty sure this is a 75 bushel spreader, and like, for instance, a new idea 19 like this, which is a fairly common spreader around here, if you were to find a decent spreader, you're probably looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,500 bucks to buy a spreader. If it's a pristine spreader, you're probably looking at $2,000 to $2,500. And if you find an Oliver around here, A, they're usually expensive, and B, the ones that I have found around here, they're in such, either they're shit, like in worse condition than this, or they're really, really nice, well taken care of, and you look at them, you're like, I really can't bring myself to put a load of manure through them. But anyway, they started selling these spreaders, and they weren't bringing anything. Like, they had like 4 or 5 of them before this one, and they were all selling between 25 and 30 bucks. So I got to this one, and it's like, you know what, screw it. I came down here, I got the trailer, I might as well try to put something on it. So I bid on it, and I bid one time, and I got this for 40 bucks. And even with lumber prices the way they are right now, to put new sides in that thing, you're probably talking, you know, there's 1, 2, looks like 2 2x6s, and it looks like you'd have to rip one, or actually you might be able to get a 2x12, depending on what that board is, and rip it and get both sides. So basically, just for the sake of figuring, figure 6 2x6s. And then I think what I might actually do is price out a piece of poly and put a poly floor in it. But you're probably going to have somewhere in the neighborhood of $300 in material at current lumber prices to put new lumber in it. Figure maybe another 100 bucks in hardware to go through and replace some loose odds and ends shit, put some new chain on it. The biggest expense is going to be tires, obviously, because these are round and hold air, but that's it. And you're probably looking at, I'm not sure you can get these big, what are these, 9 by 24, I think is what they were. Yeah, 924s. I'm not so, I'd have to look and see if you can even get these in a 5 rib anymore. It might be easier to find a like an R1 tractor tire in a 24 to put on it, but you're probably looking at somewhere between 200 bucks a tire, so probably 400 bucks. So you're probably only figure to fix the box, probably figure 400 bucks, figure 300 bucks in material and 100 bucks in hardware, and figure so I mean like 840 bucks to have a working spreader. Roughly, maybe $1,000. And at least in this area, you are not going to buy a fully functioning manure spreader, especially a new idea, because they like to bring money for that kind of money. So I don't think I did too bad, honestly, and I might end up cheaper than that. You never know. Okay, I got interrupted again. I had a buddy. He was down there and he bought a factory 3-point and a Woods belly mower. They were sold together in one lot for a 154 Cub lowboy. I hauled that home for him on the trailer, so he just came and picked that stuff up. So yeah, my $40 manure spreader. And I was curious. The PTO slide is slightly stuck. But I think if I can if I can take this guard off real quick, if I can get some leverage on it and get some WD-40 shot in there, if I can get that PTO broke loose for the slide, because I think, and I have to work on the button a little bit. If I can get this thing hooked on the tractor, I really want to spin it up to try it, because there's nothing in the drive line that says it won't work. So I'm going to screw with this a little bit for a minute and hopefully get it where I can hook it up to the tractor. So stay tuned. Okay, so that went way easier than expected. It wasn't even the shaft stuck. It has a once I got this guard off, I could see it has a steel spinner tube on it, and the two halves were just stuck together. So I couldn't yank it, but I took a small tip on the torch and I didn't even get it red. I just really fast warmed it up real quick, tapped on it with a hammer. There's a hole right here. I was able to shoot some WD-40 in. I watched the WD-40 run down, smacked it with a hammer a little more, got our 24-inch crescent wrench. I was able to span that, yanked on it real hard, it popped loose. I tapped the lock button one time with a hammer, it came loose, the spring's still good. I shot that full of WD-40. All the universal joints took grease, all the other zerks in it took grease, because I figure if I'm gonna fire it up, I might as well grease it. There's only one zerk that they were kind of assholes when they put it in there. I think I'm gonna change it. That guy right there, you cannot, these sprockets have to be right, like, you can probably get to it if it wasn't in a spot where the set screws were screwing you, but it'd be nice if that thing was up here so you could just reach over top. So I might probably gonna put a piece of pipe in there and get it up here with a coupling and put a zerk up here so that you don't have to have them sprockets in the right orientation. But anyway, it slid right on the tractor. Everything's loosey-goosey. So let's see what we can break. My guess is gonna be the floor. Okay. I'll be damned. And even the web chain's advancing. Let's see if it'll up shit. Oh yeah, look at that. No shit. Didn't realize you could declutch the beaters. Oh. It's kind of odd that they have a beater declutch, because you'd think you'd want to declutch the web chain and leave the beaters run, but that's just me. you the truth, when I got done bidding on this thing, I kind of had buyer's remorse. I'm like, what the hell did I just get myself into? But fuck, I was not expecting any of that. Well, that didn't go at all like I expected. I don't think I did too bad for 40 bucks knowing that. Get some tires and some wood on it. Technically, you could take it to the field. Because these pieces of metal back here aren't necessarily, I don't even know what the hell this thing is. There's not one over there. I don't know if they had. Yeah, I don't know what that particular piece did, but straighten the paddles out a little bit because they're a little dinked up right on the edges. But if the floor and sides were in decent shape, technically you can go spread with it right now if you really wanted to. Huh. So anyway, I guess when I was down there, I saw two people that watched my videos. One of them was one of the ringmasters, and the other one was an older guy in an IH hat, and what I'm assuming was his son, or yeah, I'm assuming it was his son. Unfortunately, walked up right as we were picking this thing up off the ground with the loader, and I had to run back and get my truck out of the parking lot so we could get it, so I never got a chance to talk to him. So I apologize for that if you guys watch this video. Basically, all I got to say to him was hi bye, unfortunately. So, but anyhow, yeah. So I guess not really a whole lot more to say about this other than probably gonna take some of the money off of wheat and put this girl together, and might be able to use it yet this summer. Clean out my uncle's cow lot, hopefully, because if you had tires and wood, if you had a solid 2-day weekend, you could probably have that thing up and ready to rock and roll. Replace the beater drive chains and the main drive chain. The worst part about it is you'd have to break the web chain and get it out to redo the floor. That would be the worst part of it, is getting that damn web chain out of there, which I noticed, I think, 2 bars that need straightened, but other than that, the other ones are all straight. So, yeah. All in all, not really having much buyer's remorse anymore. I really don't think I did that bad, knowing that this thing is pretty much a runner. But anyhow, we'll get it parked and get this video put together. I probably should have came home and sprayed today, but when I got home, the sky was all black, and I was like, because I tried spraying yesterday. Well, I tried spraying Tuesday. Checked the weather channel, nothing. Hooked the tractor up, nothing. Got to the field, got off the tractor to find the row that I had left off on, because I went to one of the fields I got blown out of by the wind. Found the row I was on, marked it, started walking back to the tractor. It started raining, and I had to go drive the tractor up under the trees, and I went and hid in a barn for about 30 minutes while it poured, even though the weather channel when I left the house said 20% chance of rain. So I never even got to spray. Then yesterday, Wednesday, got home. It was about like this out, nice, sunny, calm. Checked the weather channel. There was like a 35% chance of rain from like 4:30 to 4:45. And I came home and I dinked around and I worked on the 1955 a little bit. Replaced the fuel lift pump on that, and I'm sitting here and I'm hem-hawing because there was a little dark cloud rolling over, but I kept checking the radar and there was not a damn thing on the radar, and I kept checking the weather channel and they kept saying 35% chance of rain, 4:30 to 4:35. So I said, fuck it. Got the tractor hooked up to the sprayer, headed on down there, started spraying. Got it all, got the last 6 acres done. Got off the tractor and was folding the booms up, and the sky got dark and it started pouring, and it poured for the 5 minutes it took me to drive from the field back to the house. And I got back to the house, pulled in the yard, and it quit raining and the sun came back out. So I don't know if I'll have to respray. They had like 5 minutes of dry time. Probably not enough. I'm probably gonna have to respray it, but it's probably gonna take 3-4 days. I have to go on there, look, see if anything's wilting. If I do have to respray it, I might just get some Roundup and go down and respray it. I don't know. It's not really worth buying full jugs of stuff to spray 6 acres. It'd be kind of shitty, but hopefully that mix was hot enough and there's nothing really overly huge down there, so hopefully it just dies. But tomorrow's supposed to be calm, so hopefully I would fill the sprayer up tonight, but you have to leave it hooked on the tractor because it's just got a drop leg for a jack, and when you get 200 gallons of water in it, you can't get the thing picked up to get it back on the drawbar. So, and I got to get a spreader full of urea, so tomorrow on the way home from work, I got to stop at Coal Alliance, get a narrow track spreader. Hopefully they still got one. There was 2 sitting there today when I went by. Get a spreader, get a load of urea, bring that here so that I can spread Saturday, and then come home, drop that, get the sprayer filled up, go back. I should be able to get the vast majority of the rest of the, I should be able to get all the rest of the corn sprayed on my last tank. And then I'll have to mix up a half tank to go out and finish spraying the muck. Which, with the rain, a little bit of rain we've had, probably going to be Sunday-ish before I'm feel safe enough to go back down there. So, yeah. That's what we got to look forward to, is more spraying and side dressing. Because I need to get done spraying corn so I can get switched to beans, because the beans are starting to look pretty rough. So, anyway, this video's gotten way too damn long for just getting a new manure spreader. So, that's it for this one. We'll catch you guys on the next one.